How is it rocking, Dwayne Nation? Stay here because we are just about to get underway. In the meantime, please like, comment, and subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. We put out weekly sports content, and we want to continue to build up Dwayne Nation and the brand that is Dwayne Sports. Thank you all, and enjoy. Welcome in, Dwayne Nation. This is your host, Justin Paez, alongside Genoa Agudelo, and we got a guest today for the Dwayne Sports Podcast. This is Jordan. Jordan, thank you for coming on to the episode with us, talking Week 6 football and rest of the season football. Exciting things ahead. Before we get into everything that we have in store for you in this episode, Jordan, how are you feeling today?
I'm doing good, man. Kind of a long day. I can't really complain, man. Can't really complain.
And Genoa, how do you feel? You got a guest coming on the podcast today.
Yeah, got my guy here from Jordan, my fellow Cougar here at the University of Houston. And Jordan, welcome to the show, man. Glad to have you, my man.
Yeah, it's the best to have guests and kind of get more insight into the NFL, into fantasy football, into all the above, to help you guys win your fantasy leagues, along with kind of just being right. Doesn't it feel good to be right, make the right takes, get the right advice? That's what we try to help you guys here at Dwayne Sports. But today we're going to cover what Week 6 is, what we're most excited about for Week 6, along with what we think is going to happen down in the month of in February. And who might win the Super Bowl and who are favorites as of Week 6. It's about a third of the year in. But yeah, Jordan, I want to get your take right off the bat. Is there a game this week that you have your eye on in particular?
Yeah, it would definitely have to be the Commanders and Ravens game for sure. For sure, that's just in my opinion.
Yeah.
I just did a video about the game that they had back in 2012 with the Redskins and the Ravens and how much of a classic that was, and I think it's gonna be something similar this weekend. I'm really like what I'm seeing from Washington. Their defense has been playing really well the last 2 weeks. That was kind of the main thing with them over the first 3 weeks of the year was the defense, and they played better the last 2 weeks. So I'm really interested to see what Baltimore, is gonna do. They're really good against the run. So if they're able to take away Washington run game with Brian Robinson, Eckler, and of course Jaden Daniels, then we're gonna see how the rookie adjusts. But I'm really interested to see, man, because this is the Commanders' real test so far.
No, I completely agree. If you our recent episodes, I've been talking about. I agree. This is kind of the game of the week that I have my eye on. One of the hardest kind of games to pick to me because Washington, as you mentioned, has been super hot, and Baltimore they started slow the first 2 weeks, losing close games, but then the last 3 games they've been on fire on the offensive side. But the interesting battle is we've seen, as you mentioned, the Commanders' running offense has been superb. They've been killing it all season. But Baltimore has a pretty strong run defense, where in the past is kind of where they've struggled.
Yeah.
I think we haven't seen that since 2012 a Commander or Washington team and a Baltimore team that has such explosive quarterbacks on both sides. It's going to be a super interesting game. I think Terry McLaurin is going to be the star of it. That's kind of my viewpoint. Jano, what do you think on this game?
Yeah, Justin, this is going to be a back and forth game. I picked the final score to be 45-42 Ravens. I feel like this is the best football we've ever seen Lamar Jackson play. He looks absolutely amazing this year, and I think so far he's the front runner for MVP in my opinion. And he's going up against the potential rookie of the year in Jaden Daniels. So this is going to be an explosive matchup there in Baltimore. And man, it's just crazy how like before the season we did not see a matchup like this being like the game of the week. Commanders at Ravens usually would be just a Ravens blowout, a rout. But no, this is a game now that, these are two similar quarterbacks, except I feel like now Jaden Daniels, he can throw really good. He has a great arm and, he's impressed some. And, it's crazy that he is literally transforming this Commanders franchise and potentially in line to win their division.
No, I completely agree. I think they're clear front runners to win the NFC East. As you know, the whole tradition of, the NFC East has had different winners of the division in the last like 12 seasons. It's like Cowboys and Eagles, then random Giants year, but we'll see. They're doing good. Jano, what do you have as your game of the week?
I'm going to go with Dallas versus Detroit there. This is kind of a rematch of late last year. I think where Dan Campbell went for it like 3 times for the 2-point conversion. They ended up failing it. And I think they had like an illegal formation. I remember he was pissed off about it. And the Cowboys ended up winning late. CeeDee Lamb, this is a highlight from the game. CeeDee Lamb had a 92-yard touchdown there. And this was around week 17 there. So it was championship week in there around fantasy time. And it's going to be the game of the week this week for sure there on Fox, I believe. And, the Lions are coming out of their bye week. The Cowboys are coming off a late, go-ahead victory there in Pittsburgh. And so these are two teams that are kind of fighting for their way to get that one seed there in the NFC. And so to pick the winner of this matchup, I'm going to go with the Cowboys kind of winning late. I feel like Jared Goff is going to struggle late. I mean, I still think Goff has a great game, but I do think the Cowboys kind of steal one late in that one.
Yeah, I would say for me, man, with that game, I wouldn't even know. Like, I wouldn't know going with Dallas, man. I would probably, I definitely pick Detroit to win the game. I just don't really trust the whole. I don't trust Dallas right now. I don't like their defense. I don't like really anybody they have outside of CD Lamb. They're not that great at running the football, and I know their offensive line is banged up as well as their defensive line. Um, I just really like the Lions right now. I think they're gonna go in there because I think the game is in Dallas, right?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, in Dallas. I expect Detroit just to flat out run the ball. And plus, Dallas is terrible against the run. They had a good week last week, but it was against Pittsburgh. But I
Yeah.
think the Lions are just going to run the ball down their throats. Dan Campbell's going to chew the clock, and when throws need to be made, Jared Goff's going to make them. I mean, the main thing with Dallas for me, I would say, is just once they get down early, the game is pretty much decided. Like once they go down like 14-3, or they go down like a 13-0, like they never really bounce back.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm on the Detroit side of this. I think they're going to kind of play a game similar to what we saw a couple weeks ago with Baltimore and Dallas, where Detroit jumps out of the early lead, probably due to some Jameer Gibbs, David Montgomery work on the ground, and then we're going to have to see Dak come back and maybe lead a late time loss like usual in those kind of games. That's kind of my viewpoint on it, and the fact that they were so close last year, on that, they went for two, right? Or they went for a touchdown. Yeah, right. It was crazy.
I think
Um,
they were going for the 2 and they didn't get it, but they did score the touchdown, I believe.
yeah, and then they tried it like two more times. We're like, bro, just kick the extra point.
Yeah.
But I think this game will be much different. It's not in prime time either. I believe it's a 3 o'clock game. But yeah, moving to my game of the week, which Jordan, you kind of stole my pick, man. That was mine. Commanders Ravens. But I will pick another game because there's still a lot of good games on the slate this week, and I have the Falcons and the Panthers. I think this game
Hmm.
is going to be a lot more high scoring than we expect. Obviously, we know what Atlanta's capable of. We saw it on Thursday night. Kirk Cousins, 500 yards. Drake London, what was 150 in a touchdown. We saw Darnell Mooney put up 2 scores. I think it's not that big of a performance in sight for them in Carolina, but I think it's going to be plenty of points will be scored in this game. And I think on the Carolina side, I wouldn't be scared for them scoring points either. I think Chuba is going to be in there. Deontay Johnson's questionable at the moment, but I do think he'll play. Andy Dalton's going to want to put up some points at home. That's why I even have Carolina upsetting Atlanta. A lot of people think, Atlanta's on this hot streak right now, but I think Andy Dalton, I'm telling you, Dave Canales, quarterback whisperer, I think this is the game they kind of get back on track after getting kind of embarrassed by the Bears.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily hate it. I definitely could see that happening. It's still a divisional game, so anyone can really win it. And the Panthers have been playing better since putting Andy Dalton in the lineup. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm really interested to see what the Falcons defense does. I think in order for Carolina to win this game, is they're gonna have to really find a way to pick apart their secondary and avoid the safeties, avoid Simmons, avoid Bates. Um, but I mean, I think the main objective for them is just to run the football. If they can run the football with Chuba really well, they have a shot at winning it. I just don't see Andy Dalton being able to throw a party on them because if Deontay doesn't go as well, I mean, who is he? I think Thielen is still out too. I
Correct.
think so. It's
Yeah.
gonna be like Jalen Coker and Xavier Leggett, and I don't know if they
Exactly.
can win with that.
No, I'm gonna agree with Jordan here. I mean, to be honest, it really falls down on Andy Dalton and how he can pick apart that Falcon secondary. I mean, Andy Dalton, he had that great game in Vegas a few weeks ago. Then ever since then, he's just been real cold. Their last home game was 2 weeks ago against the Bengals. He kind of got hot late, but it was kind of too late. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase done kind of run up the score on them there in Carolina, and so they can control this game and win because Kirk Cousins on the road isn't all that well. He's always those quarterbacks that just perform well at home. Kind of like, last week they were home Thursday night. He was comfortable. But when Kirk Cousins just gets a little uncomfortable, he's not really the same quarterback there. And he doesn't have Justin Jefferson to throw it to. Yes, Drake London is pretty good. Kyle Pitts, he could be better. And Mooney, he's kind of taken off, but Mooney is currently questionable going into this game. So we're not sure if Mooney's going to be there. So definitely falls on Andy Dalton. That way they can open the running game with Chuba Hubbard playing really well since since Dalton's became the starter there. And so I don't even know how to pick the winner to this, but I wouldn't be surprised if Carolina kind of steals it late. But I'm gonna just go safely and say the Falcons through Kirk Cousins and Mooney having a great day if Mooney's able to play.
All right, so we're kind of. I mean, you're kind of down the middle. Jordan's more on the Falcon side. I'm on the Panther side. So we got some looks. So week 6, though, I can't believe it's already a third of the season. Kind of we're going through 6 weeks is crazy.
Fast.
Yeah, it's happened all of a sudden, and then sooner rather than later, it's going to be February 16th, and the season's going to be over, and we're going to be sad and have to wait. Only a month till then. Free agency and combine, but. That's because we're football nerds. We stay up and watch that stuff. But looking forward to the rest of the season, we're, as I mentioned, we're only a third of the way through, or already a third of the way through. I really want to hear, Jordan, your take on who are the kind of the best teams in each conference right now, and what would your Super Bowl prediction be this far out from February?
For the NFC, for sure, I would say the most consistent team that I've seen has been Detroit. I think the Niners have a lot of injury question marks. I think Philly has it's kind of the same thing with San Francisco, a lot of injury question marks, and I don't know how their defense is going to hold up, especially come playoff time. But I mean, once they get AJ Brown and Devontae back, I think the offense will start clicking back fine. But I think the Lions, man, I really like what I'm seeing from them all around, especially on the defense side of the ball with Aiden Hutchinson. I mean, he's arguably the defensive player of the year. I'll say he's second right now. I mean, he is absolutely balling. Their secondaries, it could play a little bit better, but I mean, they're getting the job done. They're running the football still extremely well with Monty and Gibbs. And Amon Ra's doing his thing. They're getting Jammo more involved. The line is still producing the same. So I would say at the NFC, I would have them. The AFC is where it kind of gets tough. I don't really know for sure. If I had to just pick a guess right now, I would still go with KC. I expect them to make some type of move at the deadline, whether that be getting DeAndre Hopkins or an Amari Cooper, one of those type of guys. But I definitely think they're going to make a move. But I mean, right now, look, they're still 5-0. They're still the favorite. Baltimore, the defense isn't the same.
Yeah.
Cincinnati, everything's going on over there. Buffalo, I just don't have faith in their weapons to get the job done. So I mean, right now, it's either Kansas City and also Houston. Just a lot of inconsistency, inconsistency on both sides of the ball. So right now, I would still have to say Kansas City. So I have Kansas City and Detroit.
What do you think about that, Janelle?
You know what? I'm going to agree with him. Hey, we didn't tell Jordan this there, but here we love the Eagles here, Justin, or excuse me, Jordan. We love the Eagles there. So we already love Jordan so far on this episode. You know what I'm saying? He's sweetened up. But I'm going to agree with him. I think that Detroit has a very solid defense there. If their secondary could get better, they would be one of the best defenses in the league, along with like Minnesota, maybe like Chicago. Obviously, Kansas City has one of the best defenses as well. But they're good at just getting key stops, clutch stops. I mean, they don't get a lot of sacks or a lot of crazy, pick sixes and turnovers like that, but they just know how to stop, the line of scrimmage with the run game, and they're able to stop like third down plays. And that's how they were able to win the Super Bowl. And so, I mean, they have one of the most dominant defensive tackles probably ever behind Aaron Donald and Chris Jones. And so that defense is always going to be right there. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league. And with Baltimore, it's just how can they knock off the Chiefs? How can the Bills knock off the Chiefs? How can my Texans knock off the Chiefs? And it's just by outscoring them. You got to know how to put 31 to 38 points. Yeah, I know it's the playoffs. It's tough. You're going to have to outscore the Chiefs because Mahomes is going to get his. The defense is going to get their stop. You're literally going to have to run the football and find different trick plays because this defense is led by Spags. I mean, they're just a solid unit there. And so that I'm gonna agree with him and say Kansas City does come out of the AFC. On the NFC side, it can go many ways there. I don't think Minnesota's going to keep up this hot streak. I do think that they're going to fall off sometime around week 9, week 11. They kind of fall off. I'm gonna say the Lions come out. But I like the Packers though, Justin. I think the Packers get hot late in the year too. So I'm going to actually go with Green Bay to come out. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think that since they're going to play Detroit twice this season, They might lose both, and I think that they get the better of them in some point in the playoffs. And so I like Jordan Love, man. He's gotten better. His quarterback mechanics, his throwing, his footwork has looked really well. And I think the Packers defense is good enough to get them through the playoffs. They have a pretty good offense there. If Jacobs can stay healthy there. So I'm gonna go with Green Bay, kind of going on a hot streak. I can't really say a winner though. I can't really say a winner yet though, Justin.
I mean, I was waiting for nobody to say the Packers, so I was like antsy. I was like, I want to be the one, but you said it. I mean, I agree with both of you guys. It's Packers or Lions on the NFC side. I mean, I'm an Eagles fan, but it just hasn't looked right yet. It hasn't looked right with Jalen, and I think that's kind of going to be the core of their issue. And then with the Niners, I know they're doing good right now on Thursday Night Football, but they're kind of struggling and they're dealing with injuries, CMC and everything like that. So I was going to go with Packers. I think they've looked, although they've lost 2 games, when their defense needed to step up, they actually did. Obviously that one Minnesota game, they struggled for a half and it was ugly and we thought it was over. But then we saw the Packers offense kind of light up and the defense lock in. So I think the Packers to me are my favorite out of the NFC. On the AFC side, to me, I agree. I think if the Chiefs are able to pull off a deal for one of those, B or A tier wide receivers, D-Hop would be great. Amari would be great. I think that will kind of get them into being my favorite. Right now, I still have the Houston Texans. It has been some ugly victories, but you're 4-1. You lost one pretty brutal game to the Vikings, but your pass rush is one of the best in the league with Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson. I'm hoping that Kamari Lassiter is going to continue to build up. He's been having a pretty strong rookie season as a cornerback 2. Stingley's a very solid cornerback 1. And then on the offensive side, I know they just lost Nico, but I think the bright side to this is I think it's going to unlock Tank Dell to become more a bigger part of this offense. He's struggled thus far, and I don't know if that's due to the injury he came off of last year, or even he got shot over the offseason. There's a lot of storylines for him to come into this year and be a part of a Nico Collins, who has been the best wide receiver in the league this year, and Stephon Diggs, who is established veteran. But I think this opportunity, although it is a tough injury for Nico and the Texans to handle, I think Tank Dell will kind of step up into place, as well as Joe Mixon returning. So right now I have Packers, Texans, and since I went with the Texans in the offseason, or right before the season started, I'm going to stick with Houston. We'll see what the next, third of the season looks like. But those are my 2 teams thus far. But yeah, what do you think about that, guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Texans, they're gonna have to get better as each game goes along. I think for sure the Nico injury is huge, but I think, like you said, it's gonna unlock Tank Dell. And I mean, I want to see them back. I want to see how they play when Mixon comes back. If he can get that run game going, because the one game he played, the offense looked really good. I think they put up
Right.
almost 40 on the Colts. So I do want to see him when he comes back. The run game has just not been the same without him. Cam Akers just has not been able to get it done. And I mean, but yeah, we'll see with them. I think the main thing for them is just they need to kind of find an identity. Like,
I
and
agree.
that's just kind of what it is. And you expect that from a really young team who's trying to contend. But like you said, man, I mean, look, they're 4-1. I think D'Amico, and I think one thing for them that they do have to fix is the penalties. They had a way cleaner game this past weekend, but they still lead the league in penalties, which is really concerning, especially on the offensive line. All the false starts and everything like that. I mean, but we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I don't mind it.
All right.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with Jordan right there. I've said the one thing that my Texans carry, their biggest flaw is their offensive line. In my opinion, it's probably one of the worst in the league. They're so undisciplined. I mean, the false starts, it's outrageous this year. Also, I noticed how fast they like defensive lines can get to CJ a little bit. The pressure, kind of like how CJ kind of has to go and throw on the run. Literally, he snaps the ball and it's like point 2, and he's already kind of looking to run out. And so that offensive line really needs to get better, especially on the interior side, just like the center. I just think the center and the left or right guard, it sums off. Obviously, Laramie Tunsil's been struggling as well. And
Mm-hmm.
so, that's kind of the reason why we kind of got knocked around in Minnesota. It was just so many penalties and CJ couldn't get his groove on. So that's definitely our biggest flaw. But I'm a believer in my quarterback. I know he can win his football games. It's really just our secondary too is my only other concern. And as well as D'Amico Ryans is a great coach, but in the playoffs, can he find, and slow it? Can they have, the right formations to, control the clock, run the football, and get CJ, because CJ's probably one of the best at the play action. Anytime he's looking to throw deep, he usually connects. And I think that with Nico being out, I think it's going to help us later on in the year. Give him some weeks to just rest. That way we can get him in a late December and January run.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, we all three got our Super Bowl predictions as of week 6 in. I got Texas Packers. Noah's got Packers Chiefs, and Jordan has Chiefs Lions. Before we wrap up the episode, as we are predominantly a fantasy football episode, Jordan, are you a fantasy football guy? You play fantasy?
Mm-hmm.
All right. If you had to pick just one name, maybe a sleeper or a guy that kind of maybe is going somewhat under the radar this week that you think is going to have a good game, who do you think that is? I know I'm putting you on the spot here, so I'll give you a second. But is there a guy this week that you're kind of looking at that should be in people's lineups this week?
Last week, I know for sure it was Trey Sermon. Nobody knew about the Jonathan Taylor situation. This week, trying to think, was there anyone I picked up kind of like a sleeper pick in my league? Um, I would say, who are the Raiders playing this week?
They play the Steelers
The Steelers.
at home.
I think I picked up. He was available in my league. I think it was Jacoby Myers. I think a
Okay.
lot of people. Yeah, I know. I've seen it. Like I'm in like 4 leagues, and I think in every single league he is available. And these are 10-man leagues, by the way. Like he's available in them. I think a lot of people got to get on the train because even against Denver, who I think has the best secondary in the league right now, I mean he had a pretty good game fantasy wise. And I mean, who are they playing this? They're playing the Steelers at home. I mean, the Steelers have a good defense, but I think if there's any guy you want to start, it's Jacoby Myers, man. I would say that for sure this week.
What do you think, Jano? I know you're a big Jacoby guy.
I just like this guy Jordan right here. I've been saying Jacoby Myers is an underrated receiver, and now that Devontae Adams is no longer part of this Raiders organization, not yet officially, but it's pretty much headed there. He's going to be the guy. And last year he actually had a good back half of that season, kind of connecting there. I believe was Aiden O'Connell the quarterback last year? I believe, or I know Garoppolo was hurt.
The back half.
Yeah, the back half, and I think Jacoby Myers was able to get some rapport. Which, by the way, Gardner Minshew's benched. I think it was announced yesterday or today. It will be Aiden O'Connell there, so I do think they're going to be playing from behind, and they're probably going to be throwing to Jacoby a lot. Just get him a couple garbage time touchdowns, and that helps us for fantasy. So I think he can go over probably 100 yards. Maybe he does get a score. Kind of like last couple minutes, games out of reach. He probably get a score there. And so for me though, if I had to pick somebody. I'm thinking a couple. I mean, obviously, if Travis Etienne is out, I'd probably go Tank Bigsby to probably run all over Chicago and London. Or maybe like a deep sleeper, maybe Antonio Gibson. It's looking like Ramondre Stevenson might not play. So maybe the Patriots kind of run heavy with Gibson to kind of get their rookie's first start, kind of get him comfortable there. And then lastly, I got Jalen Tolbert. This is just like a bonus one. Jalen Tolbert, he scored a touchdown the last couple weeks. This could be a shootout in Dallas. Dallas is looking for their wide receiver too, and Brandon Cooks is on IR. So Jalen Tolbert is a guy to look at as well.
I like Tolbert, and I like the Jacoby Myers pool. Those are both like really, they're deep names that are just going to be available almost everywhere. So they're cheap pickups. If you want them in DFS, you could throw them in there. So I think those are great plays. I wish I could be more with that deep take, but the guy that was coming to mind is I think this week is the Bijan Robinson week, the week that we've all been waiting for. He's been kind of just average to under average, and that's not what we drafted him to be. But he's got the skill, and I know the Falcons like Tyler Algier, and he's a pretty solid running back, but the matchup is key. I think the Falcons offense is going to be rolling, and I think they want Bijan to kind of be their workhorse, their leader, their lead back, and they know that he hasn't gotten there yet. So Bijan's my guy this week. But what do you think about Bijan for this week and this season? And then we'll wrap up. Jordan.
Yeah, I think with Bijan, I don't know, man. Atlanta, I just don't like the way they utilize their weapons. I really don't. I mean, Bijan hasn't been running the ball that well, but I just think it's all again by utilizing their guys. I think they need to get Kyle Pitts more involved. I said it after week 1 or whatever game. I think that was week 2. They beat Philly. Is that week 2?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and when Drake London had the game, I'm like, the Drake London needs to be getting at least 11 targets a game, every single game. And we're seeing more and more of that. Like, we're seeing more of them giving the ball to Drake and Kyle Pitts. But on the downside, you look at it, they're doing that because Kirk is having to throw the ball 60 freaking times a game. So, I mean, look, Bijan can help with that. I just feel like they have to utilize him running, like, I would just use him kind of more up the middle a little bit. They're trying to run him a lot to the outside. And, like, the reason why Algier's having more success is because he's running downhill. They don't give Bijan a chance to run downhill. They're like you saw in the Chiefs game when they gave him a pitch to the left, the end of the game, instead of just letting him run uphill. I mean, that's just running downhill. I mean, that's just I don't know, man. I don't know about Bijan. That's why I didn't draft him. I just had a feeling that this is what Arizona does. They did it first with Drake. They did it with Pitts, and now it's Bijan.
Yeah. Dang. Genoa.
I'm gonna agree there. You know, Atlanta, they just have a tough time utilizing their weapons they get there. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, first it was with Arthur Smith, and now they're doing it with Raheem Morris, and it's sad because I actually like Raheem Morris. I thought he was a pretty good DC in LA. I figured that he kind of take this McVay offense. You know, he coached under him, and you know McVay when he first got there, he had Todd Gurley, so he was able to develop Cam Akers for a couple of years. Now he has Kyron Williams, so I figured, hey, Raheem Morris can kind of develop Bijan until this type of running back, but sadly it hasn't been that way. Hopefully he can get back on track there. And one last thing I want to, once again, I know I'm agreeing a lot with Jordan here, but yes, I think they really do need to run up the middle there with Bijan. They do run, I do notice they do a lot of toss to the left with him. And yeah, he's a great player, but I feel like the defense kind of stacked the boxes a little bit too much on the left. And I feel like they should try something new, some different run formations. So hopefully Raheem Morris can kind of install that. And, you know, hopefully I'm hoping for a big Bijan game because I have him. So root for Bijan this weekend.
All right, so we have our takes on Bijan Robinson, mostly sour, but hey, it's not his fault. Falcons organization listened to us. But yeah, Jordan, I really appreciate you coming on to the episode today, talking some Week 6 football, talking some Super Bowl. A lot of things we covered in just a pretty short amount of time. So thanks for coming on, Genoa, my brother. Always great to have episodes with you. And send us out, Genoa.
Yeah, Jordan, thanks for coming on the show, my man. It's good to see you, and we hope to have you back, man. Justin, my brother, it's good talking with you. Thanks to We Nation for watching. If you like what you see here, click down to see more. And thanks for watching. As always, peace.
Peace out.